Before we get into today's conversation, if you're not already signed up for Street Talk newsletter, head to streettalk.studio and join a few thousand retail and fashion executives getting the week's most important signals every Monday morning. It's free, it's sharp, and it takes about 4 minutes to read. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Instagram at Street Talk Studio. Now let's get into it. Hi, I'm Arthur Zackwitz, and welcome to Corner of Fifth's Street Talk. This is where we share insights about fashion apparel, retail, beauty, technology, retail real estate, and more, while also answering this key question: what does fashion apparel, retail, and retail tech mean to you? Today, we welcome Jodi Harouche, who's the founder, co-founder, I guess, and president and chief creative officer, and David Harouche, who's the founder, chief executive officer, and chief technology officer of Multimedia Plus. Good seeing you. I haven't seen you guys in a long time, and I'm really happy that we're going to be able to catch up today. How you doing?
Great. It's great to reconnect, Arthur. It's good seeing you as well.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. So
Thank you for having us.
let's start at the beginning. What was well, tell us a little bit about the platform, how it works, and what was the impetus behind launching the technology?
So if we go back, I mean, we originally started off with the platform. We were primarily focused on video production, and we were a video production company. I had worked in retail. I'd worked at Ann Taylor stores. Jodi had worked on the wholesale side of the business, and we were creating videos. They were going out to stores, and we'd go into a back room and we'd see that these videos were still shrink wrapped and nobody opened them up. So the initial platform was for our own selfish reasons, to build a platform to be able to track videos that we were playing and that were being sent out to stores. Over the years, that evolved, and this Insight really became an associate-facing platform for training, for tasks, for communications, for forms, and we've just launched the MMP AI Studio that ties into that as well.
And what is you mentioned, this is one of the first things that I think we talked about is in between customers, like the sales associate who's the frontline kind of champion of the brand, and the public face that interfaces with the customer. What does that mean, in between customers, and how is that time used using your platform?
So I think a lot of times when you think about retail, especially today, and you walk into a store, there aren't a lot of sales associates, right? It's usually a one-to-one, meaning one manager, key holder, and maybe one associate, if you're lucky. Sometimes it's just the key holder that's there in the morning, early hours. So to kind of capture that idle time, because to be honest with you, no customer is racing through the door at, Monday morning at 9:30 as the doors open. There's not a bum rush of customers. So the associate still needs to be front facing. They still need to be available, but they can also be training and going through some information and learning and, building a portfolio of knowledge while still being on the sales floor. So that's kind of what that in between customer time means. Years ago, we all remember we used to pull our associates in the back room and sit them in front of the little 13-inch television and torture them with, 45 minutes worth of content, which would never work today. So because of that change that's kind of happened in the retail landscape, being able to train in between customer is super important. So that's kind of how we built Insight. That's why it works the way it does.
And there's also just one thing that I would add to that is that there's a lot of platforms that say they could be used on the sales floor. One of the challenges is your
Right.
customer has to always be first. So you don't ever want your customer to walk in the store and be ignored. We built the platform with subtle cues that they can hit the home key, exit, and they could pick up any other device. And the first thing it asks them when they go to start their training is, do you want to resume where you left off? And that's a game changer. That makes it usable where you're still recognizing that your customer is the first priority while
I
you're on
think
the
there's
sales floor.
another dimension to this. I was watching reruns of Parks and Rec, and Ron Swanson, who's a kind of a woodworker, and he does everything by hand. He's walking through a home improvement retailer, and his sales associate says, "Can I help you with everything?" And he stops and he goes, "I know more than you." And that's true. I mean, that's, customers are often more knowledgeable about the products. So you have to keep up the speed. If you're representing that brand, You have to know the brand and the product well, right?
Right. I also think from my perspective, because obviously, as you know, Arthur, you know Dave and I well, and as our clients always say, we share no talents. So, David's focus is really on the technology and the building, and my focus is really on the use case and how we utilize it, with our associates. And, it's one thing to be knowledgeable, but it's another thing to be passionate. And I think that is also something that is often missed. So, when we think about, well, when I think about insight, I don't think of it as a compliance tool. It's not about, did you
Right.
do your sexual harassment training? Did you do your HR paperwork? Did you do your 30-day, check-in with, HR? It can do all of those things, don't get me wrong, but it's much more about how the associate lives their life day to day. And how are they going to not only make themselves happier to go to work, right? To be more engaged and more knowledgeable, but also how does that interact with the client? So, to your point, when you say you know more, like I know more because I went on the website or I did my homework, it's important to infuse their communications and training with something special, right? It needs to have that I work for the company, so I know something you don't. And that level of, I call it pixie dust. It has to be that like special kind of engagement that you have with your internal audience, right? So something a little bit more than what a consumer can get from a website or doing
What is
research.
how would you describe, let's step back a little bit. Like, how would you describe like the overall value proposition for retailers, for the sales associates on the front lines, and for consumers? Does it improve the shopping experience using your platform?
I mean, I think retail and what we're really seeing come back is it's all about storytelling. And as Jody was saying, that passion about the product, you can get information very easily on your phone before you walk in if you want product specs. Where's the passion? Where's the storytelling? And I do think there's a number of our clients that we work with where storytelling is a key part of that associate experience. And that's not easy to communicate if you're not using really high quality content that can convey that over. If you're
Right.
sending a PDF, you're not conveying that story, and that's really what I think is important.
Right. And just to add to that, I don't think it's only it is high quality content, but it's relevant content for your internal audience. If you have a, you know, younger audience of associates, if they're, your 16 to 22 set, right? The way they want to be communicated to, the pace in which they want content, the type of content they want, may differ from your high luxury brand. So it's understanding your audience and understanding what works for them, and then being able to funnel that content into that creativity that allows you to cater to them. So I think it's really important that you can use all types of content, right? Sometimes you have to read. That's just part of the job, right? You need to be able to read a document, but you also want to be able to watch something and play with something and interact with it and get it really quick in a social media type of format. So being able to cater to the today's world, and that can be your, polished professional
Right.
associate is still going to be on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, right? So being able to understand that level of how you want to create content and the speed in which you can do it is also
If you,
really,
there's
really
I think a TikTok or an Instagram influencer who's doing their own thing with Staples. I think I forget this person's name, and it's so remarkable. But you're right. I mean, and the sales associate, and there are many who really they live the brand, right? And there's a passion there that
Mhm.
sometimes I guess corporate misses, and they don't really kind of encourage that growth. But they're out there, right? And to your point, how do you spark that creativity from them?
So I think that it's important to create a community and to create this really internal like knowledge bank, right? So that when a client or a customer walks in, you know more than they do. And that gives you the confidence to say, by the
Yeah.
way, let me let you in on a little secret, or let me share this story that I just heard from XYZ, or let me tell you what's coming next month, which we're super excited about. That's information that is really privy to an insider, and not something that might be public facing. So I think that utilizing a platform like Insight to be much more of a magazine format, much more of a daily kind of spark of information, in addition to your foundational training and things like that, is really
And
important.
listeners know this, but one of my favorite retailers, and I don't know if you work with them, is that Tractor Supply. You know, live in upstate New York, and I go there because of that energy. You know, the sales team is they love the products, they love working there, they love the environment, and it comes through. And it's away from when I go in there, I'm experiencing the Tractor Supply brand, which is what I want. You know, and they tell me things. They're like, "Oh, we got they expanded their apparel selection as a private label and Carhartt," and they're like, "Oh," and they remember me. And they're like, "Oh, we got this shirt," and they even know my size. They don't know how, but they're like, "Oh, well, I think you'll like this logo on this Carhartt pull sweatshirt." Like, and it just I feel welcomed, but I'm experiencing the brand.
Yeah, and think about it. When you're talking about, say, a mall-based retailer, those associates can choose from any store to want to work there. They're choosing your specific brand because they identify with that brand. There's something special to them, and it's meaningful to them. And I think a platform and content that help drive that are really important, and giving them that inside information. It's not memorizing product data, because that can be pulled up, that can be spit out by AI, but it is, going back to, again, it is all about that, storytelling and understanding your needs and taking the time to better understand who you are
So,
as a
who are
customer.
some of your clients? Who do you work with? Not even specific brands, but like the sectors. I mean, does it go across the board? Do you work with hospitality brands?
Yeah. It goes across the board, from luxury to discounters to dollar stores. You know, really runs, and hospitality brands as well. So I mean, we've been doing this for 29 years. So I mean, we've had the luck to, and really it's been enjoyable to work with all these different brands, because every one of them offers such a different perspective on what retailing is.
But you know what the key thing is when you're working across all of these sectors, Arthur? The key thing is to understand the customer's expectations. So if I'm walking into a Dollar Tree, which I love, I shop there. I think it's one of the funnest stores on the planet. Okay. When I walk in there, I have a certain expectation, right? I'm not expecting luxury service. I'm not expecting someone to greet me and ask me if I'd like a glass of water, right? I'm expecting to have a clean, neat, organized store that's fun to shop in, that has a fast checkout, right? I know what to expect. Now, when I walk into a store like a David Yurman, I'm expecting a certain level of experience. I'm expecting a lot of product knowledge, a lot of high touch, a lot of storytelling, a lot of suggestions, right? I expect them to know me when I walk into the David Yurman that I shop in, right? Which they do. So again, that is my expectation. Would I expect that same level from Dollar Tree at David Yurman? It would be crazy. It'd be silly. I mean, they have thousands of SKUs. How are they going to know product knowledge on the little, peeps that I want to buy for Easter? So you have to have that lens when you are thinking about your customers' expectations. When I go into a fast fashion retailer like a Windsor, who's another one of our amazing clients that's growing like wildfire, I'm expecting a certain level of experience. I'm expecting a young associate who's energetic, who has product knowledge, but also has like some style and can, kind of tell me what the trends are, right? And that's super fun. But again, it's not the same level of expectation as when I walk into a Giorgio Armani, which is again a totally different level of expectation. And I think, it really comes down to always keeping that focus when you're creating content, when you're creating experiences for your associates. Because an associate that works at Giorgio Armani may not necessarily be able to afford to buy the product. So it's giving them that confidence level to speak to the client who's walking in that is going to buy that $3,000 item, right? So that they can understand what makes it special, what makes it resonate with the client that's in front of them. So those are the things that are really important. And when a client walks into a store like Ardennes, again, another super fast, fun retailer, it's that I can find my size easily, that the shelves are stocked well, that the store is
Right,
clean. I'm
right.
not seeing dust bunnies and dirt all over the place, right? Those are the things that matter. So it's always, in my eye, it's always focus on the client's expectations and making sure your associates can meet those
Speaking
expectations where the
of
client
things that
is.
matter, I would love if you could just share a little bit about Jordan and the JZIPs, how that came about, and just well, go ahead. I'll let you kind of talk about that and walk us through.
Well, thank you for bringing that into the conversation. You know how special it is to Dave and I. So, just a little personal information. Jordan is our youngest son. He was diagnosed with a very rare brain cancer when he was 15 years old. So, Dave and I and the whole family basically went through a completely horrible, thank God with a very good outcome, experience. And through that, my kid's a fashion kid. Always was, loves fashion, loves to be, in the latest and greatest, of course, coming from parents like us. But he hated wearing hospital gowns. He was miserable at 15 years old, his whole backside sticking out. He felt very exposed. So I looked to find him garments that would make him feel more comfortable. And I did find Mediport shirts, which had a zipper that were around $50. And I was like, gosh, that's, a little expensive. Plus they were plain and boring. So I took his favorite shirts and I gave them to Dave's mom and she sewed zippers in them for him. And from there, everyone in the hospital, every parent was like, that's amazing. Every nurse, every doctor. And Jordan said, you know what, mom, we should make these for the other kids. Fast forward, Jordan is 6 years in remission. He's now 22 years old, graduated college. He's working for a wonderful marketing company. And we are 20,000 units in to JZIPs. We continue to provide over 52 hospitals and thousands of individuals who request through our website. And it's just become our labor of love. It keeps our family grounded. Everyone is involved. Our community is involved. We get fantastic grants from amazing organizations to help us keep running it. And again, it's just a real special passion for us to be able to provide these t-shirts for thousands of children. So it's called JZIPs, and you can look at the website, it's jzips.org. And we love support, we love community, we love corporate sponsorship. So and we do work with Old Navy, we work with Disney. So it's really
So
very rewarding,
we're
to
running
say
out of
the
time, but
least.
I have one last question. We'll start with you, David. What does fashion apparel and retail technology mean to you? Both, it could be on a personal level, it could be on a professional level, but what does it mean to you?
Well, it's, I think for me, it's been our, my life's work, as we've seen the evolution of fashion apparel over the years and retail technology. I mean, it's been very dramatic because there was a long time where technology within fashion apparel was always way behind. And I think right now we're at a state where technology is very important to the industry, and the latest technology, as everything is evolving so rapidly. And it's also why means of communicating these new changes to your field is critical, because their stores have now turned into warehouses, right? Where they're shipping from store, buy online, pick up in store, on top of maintaining an excellent customer experience for those customers who walk in. So stores are juggling with more now than ever, and making sure that you can educate them properly, get them up to speed properly, dealing with turnover issues that you have. These are the challenges that everybody's facing right now. And I do think there are technological solutions that really can impact the business in a way that they haven't before. But it's, there's something new coming every other day. And I think that's, for us,
I
that's what
can't keep
keeps it
up.
exciting.
We had a guest when we talked about AI agents, and just over the past year, just out of the blue, it's exploded. So very exciting times to be. And
Well, yeah, Arthur, one of the things we'll have to show you, we've actually, the MMP AI Studio will actually scrape a website, write a script on the product, and generate a video for that product, a 30 to 90 second video with an AI avatar actor and AI animated videos of the product
I'd
in
love
less than
love
20
to do a
minutes.
demo of that.
I mean, that's
So Jody, so what's your take? What
yeah.
does fashion apparel retail mean to you?
So, it's interesting because listen, I love clothing. I love clothing. I love shopping. I'll be very honest with you. Technology is just like a means to that love and that passion for me, right? So it's, again, Dave and I share no talent. So it's very interesting because what technology gives me is a way to create and experience and give experiences to a whole new generation that is first coming into retail, right? And is first starting their career journey or their career path. And people forget that retail can be a career. Right? It's not just a part-time job for high school students, right? It can be your path to success. I know so many people that started in stores that are now CEOs and presidents of companies making hundreds of thousands of dollars and are so successful. And people that are retail associates that are have building careers and having amazing journeys through great customer experiences. So to me, I almost flip it. And I think the tech is a way to create a stronger group of sales professionals out there in retail. So to me, I think it's a very exciting time. I think it's only beginning. AI is gonna, rock our world again. And I truly believe that it's a great time to be a retailer if you can embrace and understand how to play the game now, right? So I am really excited to see the next 5 years, what that's gonna bring. But
No.
I do not think stores are going away. I do not think they're going anywhere. I mean, I'm in the mall all the time or shopping in, some of our retailers that we service, as clients, and they're busy. They are busy. And I think that's, something that if you would have said 10 years ago when the internet came on, you would have been like, "Stores are dead,
Not
they're gonna
happening.
close them." Not at all. It's actually
Well,
quite the opposite.
thank you so much. Great catching up with you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time today, and thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next
Thank you.
time. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Arthur. So good to see you.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Street Talk. If today's conversation was useful, the best thing you could do is share it with a colleague. It generally helps us grow. And if you haven't already, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a review. It takes 30 seconds and makes a real difference. For the full episode write-up, show notes, and our weekly newsletter, visit streettalk.studio. We're also on LinkedIn and Instagram at Street Talk Studio. We'll be back next week, and thanks for listening.